The sun was high in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over the town of Willow Creek. Emma Lawson adjusted the delicate lace of her wedding dress for the 100th time, her reflection in the ornate mirror capturing both the radiant excitement and the fluttering nerves that danced in her chest. Today was supposed to be perfect, her dream wedding with James, the man she loved, surrounded by friends, family, and laughter. The halls and the Rosewood Manor sparkled with crystal chandeliers, fragrant flowers, and the faint scent of jasmine that drifted in from the gardens outside. Guests were arriving, dressed in their finest, smiling and greeting one another, oblivious to the tiny threads of tension quietly weaving through the day. James stood at the far end of the room, adjusting his tie with a nervous hand. His eyes met Emma's in the mirror, and he offered a tentative smile. She returned it, her heart beating a little faster as the reality of the day sank in. For months they had meticulously planned every detail, from the floral arrangements to the seating chart, but nothing could have prepared them for what was about to unfold. Amid the joyous chaos, Emma's attention flickered to a figure outside the window. A man leaning against a dark SUV parked just beyond the garden gate. He was dressed sharply, but there was something unsettling about the way he stood, arms crossed, as if waiting for something, or someone. Emma frowned, a chill running down her spine. Shrugging off the unease, she told herself it was probably a delivery driver or a wedding staff member, though the image lingered in the back of her mind. The ceremony began with a swell of music. Emma walked down the aisle, the delicate petals of the rose-strewn path crunching beneath her feet. The guests' smiles and applause blurred into a haze of color and sound as she reached James, their hands trembling slightly as they met. The vows were heartfelt, the words exchanged in whispered promises, and the kiss sealed their union. It was a moment that seemed to float outside time itself, perfect and unassailable. After the ceremony, guests moved to the garden for photographs. Emma posed for pictures with her bridesmaids, her smile dazzling in every frame, yet her mind remained strangely unsettled. She checked her phone briefly, only to find a new text message she hadn't seen before. "Don't go out there. It's not safe." Her heart skipped a beat. The sender was unknown. She stared at the message, her mind racing, before quickly deleting it, hoping that ignoring it would erase the unease it brought. Emma excused herself from the group to step into the garden for a few quiet photos alone. The sun kissed the edges of the trees, creating a picture-perfect backdrop for what should have been a serene moment. Birds chirped lazily, unaware of the tension that had crept into the day. She posed near the fountain, a gentle breeze playing with the edges of her veil. Then, almost instinctively, she glanced toward the gate. The same man she had seen earlier was gone, but the black SUV remained parked silently, ominous in its stillness. She returned to the reception hall after a few minutes, expecting to rejoin the guests, but something felt off. The path she had walked down moments before now seemed empty, the laughter of the guests muted, as if the garden itself had swallowed the sound. And then, for reasons she couldn't explain, she felt the prickling sensation of being watched. Turning abruptly, she saw no one, but the feeling refused to leave. Inside, James was talking to relatives, unaware of the growing tension. Emma's bridesmaid, Sarah, noticed her absence. "Where's Emma?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. James looked around and frowned. "She went to the garden for a few photos," he replied. 10 minutes passed, then 20, still no sign of Emma. A small unease began to ripple through the crowd. Guests wandered toward the garden, calling her name, but the space appeared deserted, as if she had never been there at all. Panic started to set in when security cameras revealed nothing unusual. The footage showed the garden empty during the critical moments. No one could see her leaving, no one could see anyone approaching. It was as though the world itself had swallowed her whole. James's hand shook as he clutched the frame of a nearby archway. He can't just Disappear? He muttered, almost to himself. Guests whispered among themselves, fear and confusion spreading like wildfire. By the time the local police arrived, the joyous atmosphere had dissolved entirely. Detective Lisa Harper, experienced in missing persons cases, stepped into the grand hall. Her eyes swept over the room, noting every anxious face, every uneasy gesture. She began methodically questioning guests, staff, and relatives. Everyone had a consistent story. Emma had been radiant, happy, and excited moments before she vanished. No one had seen anyone suspicious approach her, and yet there was no trace of her. The initial reports went public quickly, and the media descended on Willow Creek. Headlines blared, "Bride missing during wedding, mystery deepens." Social media exploded with speculation, each post more frantic than the last. The townspeople, once celebrating a union of love, now whispered about abductions, curses, and conspiracy. The joyous day had transformed into a nightmare. As night fell, the town felt eerily quiet. The wedding hall, once filled with laughter and music, now sat dimly lit, echoing with the soft murmur of anxious conversations. Outside, the black SUV that had appeared earlier was gone, leaving only the faint impression of its presence. Somewhere in the darkness, someone watched, satisfied that their plan had unfolded perfectly. Inside, Detective Harper reviewed the camera footage again, slow and deliberate. There were no signs of a struggle, no footprints leading away, no clues at all. The only certainty was that Emma Lawson had vanished, leaving behind a wedding full of shocked witnesses and questions that no one yet knew how to answer. And deep in her mind, Harper sensed that this case would be unlike any she had faced before, a puzzle with pieces missing, a mystery that would haunt Willow Creek for months, perhaps years to come. Detective Lisa Harper had been working missing persons cases for over a decade, but something about Emma Lawson's disappearance gnawed at her instincts. It wasn't just the suddenness of it, it was the eerie perfection of the vanishing. A bride disappears during her own wedding in a garden crowded with witnesses, yet not a single clue points to what happened. It was almost impossible. Harper couldn't shake the feeling that someone had meticulously planned every detail. She began by questioning the wedding guests one by one, her notebook filling with names, descriptions, and timelines. Everyone's stories aligned perfectly, almost too perfectly. The bridesmaids remembered Emma stepping outside for photos. The groomsmen didn't notice anything unusual. Even the catering staff swore the day had gone normally until the panic erupted. Yet Harper sensed the gaps, small, almost invisible. The moments no one had noticed, the brief glances, the subtle hesitations. Someone was hiding something. Harper turned her attention to James, the distraught groom. He sat on a bench in the dimly lit garden, head in his hands, fingers trembling. He was pale, voice barely audible as he recounted the last moments before Emma vanished. "We were in the garden for pictures," he said. She stepped away for a moment. I thought she was just taking a breath, you know? She always liked a moment to herself. But then she didn't come back." His words trembled with grief, but Harper noted something else, a pause, a hesitation, almost like he was holding something back. "James," Harper said gently, leaning forward, "I need you to be completely honest. Was there anything unusual today? Any calls, messages, anything at all?" James's eyes flickered, avoiding hers. "Well, yes," he admitted after a long pause. "I got a call earlier, a strange call, a man's voice threatening. He said Emma shouldn't go through with the wedding. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to worry her." He shook his head, guilt etched deep into his features. "I thought maybe it was just a prank. I never imagined this." Harper scribbled notes, her mind connecting the dots. Threatening calls before the wedding, anonymous texts Emma received which she had quickly deleted. Someone had been watching them both. The questions piled up, but the answers remained elusive. Her next step was to investigate Emma herself. Harper dug through social media, past interviews, and conversations with friends. Emma Lawson to the world was the perfect bride, kind, charming, intelligent, and beloved by everyone she knew. But beneath that smile, Harper sensed layers that weren't immediately visible. A closer look revealed that Emma had been unusually private over the last few months. Several of her friends mentioned receiving messages that Emma never responded to, warnings, subtle hints that she was anxious about something. Then Harper found something alarming. Emma had a sister, Vanessa, who had disappeared from public life years ago. Vanessa owed money to dangerous individuals known for violence and intimidation. Harper realized this could be the motive. Could Emma's family have been threatened? Was this disappearance tied to something far darker than a simple kidnapping? The investigation took a dramatic turn when Harper received a tip from a neighbor. "I saw a car parked near the hall just before the ceremony," the man said, wringing his hands nervously. "It was black. I didn't get the license plate, but someone was sitting inside, just watching." Harper's pulse quickened. Surveillance footage had not shown the car, which meant it had been parked in a blind spot, strategically placed. Whoever was responsible knew the hall, the layout, and exactly where to hide. Meanwhile, James's behavior began to worry the detective. He was cooperative, but Harper noticed inconsistencies in his story. He claimed to have been with family members, but cell phone records showed gaps in his timeline. "I don't know where I was," James insisted, though his guilt was almost tangible. Harper made a mental note. He wasn't her primary suspect yet, but he couldn't be dismissed. Then came the breakthrough. A delivery person who had arrived at the hall that afternoon stepped forward. I saw her," the man stammered. "Emma was talking to someone. I only saw the back of the person, but they wore a hood or mask. She looked scared, really scared. I didn't think much of it at the time." Harper leaned forward. "How long ago?" The man hesitated. "Just before she vanished, maybe 10 minutes. Harper's mind raced. Here was a concrete lead, a witness who saw interaction between Emma and someone unknown, but the details were frustratingly limited. The masked figure remained a mystery. Whoever it was had carefully hidden their identity, leaving no trace behind. As the town absorbed the shock, media coverage intensified. Headlines shouted, "Bride missing at wedding, family in shock. Was it a kidnapping or a secret escape?" Social media speculation grew wild, with strangers theorizing everything from runaway bride to organized crime. Local gossip painted suspects in every corner: James, the ex-boyfriend, even wedding staff. The town itself felt paralyzed by fear and curiosity. Harper, however, refused to be distracted. She focused on uncovering Emma's hidden life. Interviews with close friends revealed Emma had recently helped her sister Vanessa, who had been harassed by a criminal gang demanding repayment of a debt. Harper suspected this was the motive. Emma may have been targeted to send a message or punish her family. She considered the timing. Why the wedding? Why that day? Whoever planned this knew Emma would be vulnerable, distracted by the ceremony, surrounded by chaos, and unsuspecting of danger. Tension in the investigation escalated when Harper received a tip from a neighbor. The SUV appeared on the streets of Willow Creek. Harper coordinated with local patrols, hoping to track it, but it vanished again before anyone could intervene. Every lead seemed to vanish just as it appeared, leaving the detective frustrated yet determined. By the end of the week, Emma was still missing. The town began to fracture under suspicion and fear. Family and friends argued, some blamed James, others wondered if Emma orchestrated her disappearance herself. Harper, however, knew better. Someone had carefully planned every detail, and she was beginning to see the outline of a pattern. Someone very close to Emma, someone who knew her routines, habits, and vulnerabilities. Late one night, Harper sat alone in her office reviewing the case notes. The pieces were beginning to align in a terrifying way. Threatening calls, anonymous messages, a masked figure, the black SUV, Vanessa's debts, James's inconsistent timeline. It all pointed toward a chilling possibility. Emma hadn't disappeared randomly. She had been taken deliberately, and the people responsible were watching every move, ensuring no one could reach her. As Harper stared at the photos of the wedding day, the last image of Emma smiling in the garden before she vanished, she whispered to herself, "I will find you. I won't let this go." Outside, the town slept uneasily, unaware that the nightmare had only just begun. The days stretched into weeks, and Willow Creek had transformed from a quiet, picturesque town into a place gripped by tension and suspicion. News vans lined the streets outside Rosewood Manor. "Bride missing at wedding. Where is she?" headlines screamed. Emma Lawson's face was plastered across televisions, billboards, and social media, her radiant smile frozen in time, a haunting contrast to the fear that had overtaken the town. Detective Lisa Harper worked tirelessly, reviewing every detail, re-interviewing witnesses, and retracing Emma's last known movements. Every lead seemed promising, yet ended in frustration. The black SUV, the threatening calls, the anonymous messages, they all hinted at a meticulous plan, but the person or people behind it remained hidden in plain sight. Then a breakthrough came unexpectedly. A witness, a delivery driver who had initially gone unnoticed in the chaos of the wedding day, came forward again. This time, his account was more detailed. "I saw her," he said, voice shaking. "Emma was arguing quietly with someone. I didn't see the face, just a hood, but I remember the way she looked, terrified. She wasn't resisting, but she knew something bad was coming." Harper's mind raced. She reviewed the security footage and realized there had been a blind spot near the garden's side gate. Whoever orchestrated this had studied the layout and planned for the perfect moment when Emma would be vulnerable. It was no random act. It was a carefully calculated abduction. Harper decided it was time to dig deeper into Emma's past. Interviews with friends and family revealed fragments of a life hidden beneath the public facade. Emma had been secretly supporting her estranged sister Vanessa, who had recently resurfaced with serious financial troubles. Vanessa had become entangled with a local gang of debt collectors, dangerous men known for intimidation and violence. Emma had helped pay some of her sister's debts discreetly, hoping to protect her from harm, but someone had noticed. The detective's suspicions grew when she began scrutinizing James's behavior more closely. While outwardly distraught, his story had inconsistencies. Harper examined his phone records, cross-referencing timestamps with witness accounts. There were gaps, periods during which James was unaccounted for. He had claimed to be comforting guests, but his location history suggested otherwise. Harper made a mental note. He wasn't dismissed as a suspect, but she needed more concrete evidence before making any moves. She decided to set a trap, hoping to draw the real mastermind out. Meanwhile, Michael Stanton continued to shadow the edges of town, and whispers began circulating that he had been spotted near the warehouse the night Harper had gone there. Harper coordinated a discreet stakeout, watching the perimeter and noting the comings and goings of suspicious individuals. Each lead seemed to intersect like threads woven into a larger tapestry of deceit. Whoever was behind this had a long game, and Harper realized the true challenge wasn't finding Emma, it was anticipating the manipulator's next move. The tension in Willow Creek reached a fever pitch as the wedding faded from memory, replaced by fear and speculation. Family and friends argued openly, each person desperate to fill the void left by Emma's absence. James became a reluctant focal point, enduring pointed questions and insinuations from everyone around him. Harper, however, remained focused, detached from the hysteria, determined to see the case through. Then, late one night, Harper received another anonymous tip. The message was short, typed in all caps, and sent from a burner phone. "She is alive. Look where no one thinks to look." Harper's pulse raced. She reviewed every location connected to Emma, friends, family, past hangouts, but nothing matched the clue. The cryptic nature of the message was deliberate, another layer of the manipulator's twisted game. Harper understood something crucial. Emma's disappearance was no longer just a case. It was a battle of wits, a dangerous chess game in which every move had been calculated by someone who knew her world intimately. The detective felt the weight of responsibility pressing down. Every hour mattered. Every mistake could cost Emma her life. And somewhere out there, the mastermind was watching, waiting, confident that their plan was nearly complete. By the end of part 3, the web of intrigue had grown exponentially. Threats, secret pasts, obsessive rivals, and familial entanglements all converged, creating a labyrinth of motives and danger. Harper had begun to see the outline of the true picture, but the final pieces remained elusive. One thing was certain. Emma was alive, the mastermind was close, and the final confrontation, when it came, would reveal shocking truths that no one in Willow Creek could have anticipated. The weeks of tension and uncertainty had left Willow Creek restless, its once idyllic streets shadowed by fear. Every window, every garden, every quiet corner seemed suspect. Detective Lisa Harper felt the weight of the case pressing down on her. Emma Lawson was still missing, yet Harper had grown closer than ever to understanding the sinister puzzle that surrounded her disappearance. The breakthrough came not from technology, witnesses, or surveillance, but from intuition and patience. Harper had pieced together the fragments, the hooded figure in the garden, the black SUV parked outside the hall, the threatening calls and messages, James's inconsistencies, and Emma's secret connection to her sister Vanessa. But the one piece that had eluded her, the person orchestrating it all, finally revealed themselves in a way Harper hadn't anticipated, from within the family itself. Harper revisited every conversation she had had with Emma's relatives. Something had felt off about Emma's aunt, Margaret Lawson. Sweet, composed, and deeply respected by the family, Margaret had helped plan the wedding and appeared devastated by Emma's disappearance. Yet Harper noticed subtle cues, nervous gestures when Emma's sister Vanessa was mentioned, small contradictions in her accounts of the day, and an almost imperceptible relief whenever Harper directed suspicion elsewhere. Harper began to suspect the unimaginable. Margaret, someone everyone trusted implicitly, might be involved. Following her hunch, Harper arranged a discreet meeting under the guise of following another lead. She brought James along, knowing his presence might provoke a reaction. Margaret arrived at the predetermined location, a quiet park near town, her expression calm, though Harper could see the tension in her eyes. "Margaret," Harper began, her voice steady, "I've reviewed everything, the calls, the messages, the events that day, and the connections to Vanessa. There's something you're not telling me." Margaret's lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment she said nothing. Then, in a voice so soft it barely carried, she spoke. "I did what I had to do. I couldn't let Emma get hurt." Harper's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean? Who threatened her?" Margaret exhaled slowly. "Vanessa. She got herself in deep trouble. The people she owes money to, they wouldn't stop. I knew they would come for Emma if she went through with the wedding. I had to protect her." Harper's mind raced. Protect her by making her disappear? "Yes," Margaret admitted, her eyes glistening. "I arranged for her to be hidden in a safe house. She's alive, Lisa, yes, but safe. I had no choice. I couldn't let anything happen to her." The revelation stunned Harper. It was true. Emma's disappearance had been orchestrated not by a stranger or obsessed ex-lover, but by someone who loved her enough to take extreme measures. The mastermind had manipulated every aspect of the day to keep Emma out of harm's way, carefully covering tracks to mislead everyone, including the police. But Margaret's relief was not complete. "I didn't know how long I could keep her hidden, and I couldn't tell James, not until it was safe. I didn't want him to get involved. I didn't want anyone else to make a mistake that would put her life in danger." Harper nodded, slowly processing the magnitude of the confession. It was a dangerous deception, yes, but it had been executed with precision and for a protective purpose. Harper knew she had to act quickly. She needed to recover Emma and ensure her safety before anyone else inadvertently compromised it. Using the information Margaret provided, Harper coordinated a discreet operation. They arrived at a remote cabin outside town, far from prying eyes. Harper signaled her team to approach cautiously. Inside, Emma sat quietly, her hands clasped in her lap, pale but unharmed. The relief in her eyes as she recognized Harper was overwhelming. "Detective Harper," she whispered, her voice trembling. I thought I'd never see anyone again." "It's okay, Emma," Harper reassured her. "You're safe now. Everything's going to be okay." James entered moments later, cautiously, his face a mix of fear and hope. When he saw Emma alive, his knees almost buckled. "Emma, thank God," he murmured, embracing her tightly. Emma clung to him, her body shaking as the reality of being found and safe finally sunk in. Once the immediate relief passed, Harper gathered them together. "Emma," she said gently, "what Margaret did was risky, but it was meant to protect you. You're going home now, but we need to make sure everyone involved in this threat is held accountable." Emma nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. "No one should get away with this. They can't threaten anyone else." Harper smiled faintly, proud of her composure. She knew that Emma's ordeal had changed her, and that justice was not just about recovering a missing person, it was about confronting the darkness that had crept into her life. The next days were a whirlwind. Margaret confessed to law enforcement about her role, framing her actions in terms of protection rather than malicious intent. Emma reunited with her family, cautiously rebuilding trust and coping with the lingering trauma. James remained steadfast, his devotion unquestioned, though he too had to confront the emotional aftermath of fear, suspicion, and near loss. Harper, ever vigilant, tracked down the dangerous individuals who had threatened Vanessa and, by extension, Emma. With their arrest, the threat that had initiated the entire ordeal was neutralized. Willow Creek could begin to heal, though the town would never forget the wedding that ended in fear rather than joy. In the quiet aftermath, Emma reflected on the experience. The perfect day she had dreamed of had been shattered, but it revealed truths she had never expected about family, loyalty, and the lengths some would go to protect those they love. She knew she would always carry the memory of fear, but she also carried a profound gratitude for Detective Harper, for her fiancé, and even for her aunt, whose actions, though extreme, had saved her life. Detective Harper, sitting in her office one evening, reviewed the final notes of the case. She allowed herself a rare moment of satisfaction. The case that had haunted her for weeks was resolved. Emma was alive, the mastermind revealed, and justice restored. But as she glanced out the window at the quiet town below, Harper reminded herself that darkness often hid behind familiar faces, and vigilance was never optional. Willow Creek would return to its peaceful rhythm, but the memory of the vanished bride and the truth behind her disappearance would linger in every conversation, every glance, every corner of the town. Emma's life had been saved, but the haunting lesson remained. Appearances can deceive, danger can lurk where you least expect it, and love, sometimes desperate, sometimes flawed, can be both the cause of fear and the instrument of salvation. As the sun set over the horizon, Harper whispered to herself, almost as a promise, "We'll always find the truth, no matter where it hides."